New York City protesters gather outside of Trump Tower. Find out why coming up.
And new information on the man who led the Parkland shooting and his long-awaited trial.
Broadcasting live from the University of North Texas, this is ntTV News at Noon.
Thanks for joining us on ntTV News at Noon. I'm Jessica Jalal.
And I'm Talaya Munson. We have a great show for you today. Today in New York, protesters stood outside of Trump Tower just ahead of a hearing for the former President Donald Trump. Many held signs with one saying no one is above the law. The hearing regards a case for an alleged assault that happened outside of Trump Tower in 2015. A group that described themselves as human rights activists of Mexican origin were protesting Trump's rhetoric on immigration when his head of security allegedly hit one of the protesters. Trump was ordered to give a video deposition.
Nicholas Cruz, the man arrested for the 2018 Parkland shooting, intends on pleading guilty to all charges. His lawyer announced in court Friday that Cruz will plead guilty to 17 counts of premeditated first-degree murder and 17 counts of first-degree attempted murder. In the past, the defense has looked at life in prison with no parole, but the state has said that they are seeking the death penalty. Cruz has also pled guilty for charges relating to assault of a jail guard in 2018. The judge has set a plea hearing for this Wednesday.
A person has died after being struck by a DART train in northwest Dallas on Saturday. Officials say that DART police were called around 9:20 p.m. near the Farmers Branch station to investigate the scene. The person was hit by a southbound Green Line train. Their name has not yet been released, but they were taken to Parkland Hospital and have since been confirmed dead. No other information is yet available.
FDA advisors voted to recommend Johnson & Johnson's COVID booster shot for all adults last Friday. CNN's Emily Schmidt has more.
We do have 19 out of 19 unanimous yes votes.
Johnson & Johnson making its case to the FDA, asking for authorization for a booster for its one-and-done COVID vaccine.
I know that there are lots of recipients who just really want to know, what about me? What should I be doing now?
On Friday, FDA advisors voting unanimously to recommend booster doses of J&J's COVID-19 vaccine, at least 2 months after people get the first dose.
The question is, are people who got the first J&J vaccine better off getting a second dose? And I think the data that are presented says, yes, they are better off and there's no increased risk of vaccine side effects.
Pfizer's booster shot has already been authorized for some vulnerable groups. Meanwhile, new CDC data showing unvaccinated adults face 11 times higher risk of dying from COVID than fully vaccinated adults. With experts saying the data has been consistent, vaccines save lives.
We need to get the unvaccinated vaccinated. That's what's going to make the biggest difference in terms of driving down infection numbers and hospitalizations across the country.
Some positive news on the vaccine front. Using CDC data, the Kaiser Family Foundation reporting an uptick in vaccination rates in the Black community as many overcome vaccine hesitancy.
We've got to get first doses of vaccines and those who are hesitant or refusing, and we have to boost. It's as simple as that.
In Washington, I'm Emily Schmidt reporting.
The FDA will now consider the advisor's recommendation to approve the booster shot. If approved, J&J's booster will be eligible for widespread distribution throughout the U.S. It looks like sweater weather has finally arrived here in Denton.
I agree, Jess. The air was very crisp this morning on the way to the studio. Let's get a glimpse into what the weather is looking like this week from Sydney.
Yes, Talaya and Jessica, the weather was definitely very chilly this morning, but as the day goes on, those temperatures are starting to rise up. Let's go ahead and take a look at our current conditions in Denton. Currently, we are sitting at a nice 68 degrees. It does feel a little bit warmer with the temperature being at 71 with high wind speeds of 10 miles per hour. Now, looking into tonight's conditions, the temperatures will also be warm at 72 degrees. It will feel a little bit chillier at 70 with lower wind speeds of 8 miles per hour. Now, looking into tomorrow's conditions, the temperatures will be nice as well. It will be 73 degrees and it will feel a little warmer at 74 with very high wind speeds of 13 miles per hour. That is it for our first look. Make sure to tune back in later for our full weather forecast. Back to you guys at the desk.
Next, UNT's homecoming is back in person, and we can't wait to see what events we have planned.
Halloween is right around the corner, and so is the new Halloween movie. Get the inside details about the making of the film up next.
Hey, listen to my flow to save some issue up.
UNT returns to an in-person homecoming this year. Homecoming week will take place from November 7th through the 13th. Homecoming team competition signups and royalty applications are now open. Competition will consist of 3 service events and 3 spirit events. You can apply for homecoming court or competition on the UNT website. And up next is Sydney with the forecast for today.
Thank you, Jessica. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our full weather forecast. We can see that our temperatures across North Texas are ranging in the high 60s, with McKinney being at 69 and Fort Worth being at 69 and Graham also being at 69. Now let's look at our current conditions across the state. We can see that we have temperatures in the high 60s and the low 70s, with an exception of El Paso being at 79 degrees. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our 7-day forecast. Throughout the rest of the week, the temperatures will rise up to the low 80s, with the warmest point on Wednesday at 84 degrees. We will also be sitting in the high 50s and low 60s, with Thursday having the lowest temperature at 56 degrees. While the temperatures are much cooler than the beginning of this month, we are expecting clear and sunny skies with no rain this week. So make sure to spend some time outside this week, as the weather is looking pretty great. That is it for our 7-day forecast. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Sydney. You know, there's a lot to look forward to in entertainment these days, and now Warner Bros. Has given us more to look forward to. The Batman trailer was released on Saturday, and fans are going batty. Robert Pattinson shows off his cape as our beloved new Bat, alongside Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Some other fan favorites appear, such as Alfred Pennyworth and James Gordon, played by Annie Serkis and Jeffrey Wright. The Penguin is also spotted in the trailer, portrayed by Colin Farrell. The trailer is action-packed and promises a fun time for audiences on March 4th next year when the movie premieres. Make sure to keep an eye out for the Batman movie premiering soon. You won't want to miss it.
In other movie-related news, Michael Myers made a comeback last Friday with the release of Halloween Kills. The movie premiered in theaters and began streaming on Peacock. The cast of the sequel recently gave an interview, and CNN's Rick Damigella has more.
Halloween Kills picks up moments after the end of 2018's Halloween.
We didn't have to make up a bunch of well, this is what I was doing for the last 5 years. It was pretty easy, actually. I was happy. I think it's a bold move.
It was like going back to camp. We had almost virtually the same crew, the same cast, and then also, camp, knowing that we have some new faces coming in that we've heard about for the last 40 years.
I just feel really fortunate and blessed to be part of this franchise. And again, particularly because it's a movie that people are expecting and waiting for, which is really a lot of fun, man.
For Jamie Lee Curtis, an important sequence was challenging to film.
The scariest time I've had on a Halloween movie is when they called action and 300 people started running at me, with me in the middle of it all. And they were told, move her out of the way. If she's in your way, move her out of the way. I mean, obviously, they were told, don't hurt her. I'm Laurie Strode! You sheep, it's not him! That is not something I've ever dealt with. I've never stood there and faced an onslaught of angry people racing at me. And that was intense, and it's intense in the movie. I want to take his mask off and see the life leave his eyes.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
With Halloween right around the corner, this movie could be a great alternative if you're too scared to go to a haunted house or if you don't feel like dressing up. A new take on a classic thriller could be a good reason to head back to the movie theaters.
Wisconsin man Mike Schmidt has grown a record-breaking 2,000-pound pumpkin, but was controversially disqualified from competition. CNN's James Groh has more.
Giant pumpkin weighs in at 2,520 pounds.
While this is the heaviest pumpkin in the country, it's not going down in the record books that way. It cracked. But before we get into that, meet the grower.
My name's Mike Schmidt, and I grow giant pumpkins. Pumpkins are like ice cream. Everyone loves them. Some people say we're crazy, but, we're just people that like to have a little fun out in the dirt.
Mike grew this gargantuan gourd about 30 miles west of Fond du Lac. It weighs 2,520 pounds.
This pumpkin would have won this year, and so you're looking at a pumpkin that would have been worth $20,000.
But unfortunately, from internal pressures and the awkward way it was growing, it cracked. That disqualified him from all competitions this year.
The crack was the size of a fingernail. It happens. There's no crying in pumpkin growing.
Sounds like he needed a pumpkin patch. Mike grew 3 pumpkins this year, and all his pumpkins had similar fates. But there's no time to sulk.
I know I can do it again, so we just got to look forward to the future and do it again.
Hopefully next time, the great pumpkin gods spare him and he can put his name in the record books.
Man, Halloween is coming up, and I am just so excited for all the events that are going to be going on. How about you, Talea?
I'm right with you there, Jessica. In fact, I hear that there's a house decoration contest happening outside of Denton. Have you heard about it?
Oh, that's amazing. I actually have not. Holiday competitions surely come with a lot of preparation in advance. I look forward to hearing more about it.
Lydia will be telling us more. Fill us in, Lydia.
I am more than happy to. The Fright Lights competition will be held in Trophy Club, with the residents there entering into the contest. The Parks and Recreation staff there will serve as the judges, and whoever is the winner will receive bragging rights, a keepsake award sign in their yard, and a feature on the Parks and Recreation Facebook website. Judging will be occurring between 6 to 10 o'clock p.m. on October 25th over the best and spookiest decorations. Let's take a look.
The Trophy Club Fright Lights competition is back for another year of spooktacular yards, with all entries judged for their originality, creativity, and Halloween theme. lighting and musical effects are used by many of the contestants, which with no doubt will capture the attention they deserve. Some of the houses are especially impressive, with a clear theme in mind that are certainly eye-catching to anyone crossing by. Pirates, skeletons, and pumpkins are just some of the elements showcasing the brewing Halloween spirit for anyone wishing to compete with their own creative hands. The sense of competition comes into play particularly in the night, where the embodiment of anticipated thrills are visually striking during this period. Not only static figures are used, but animatronics are also added for the terror.
Halloween's one of my favorite holidays. My wife and kids love Christmas. Halloween is mine, and I guess I just started collecting characters and monsters, and we transferred here from Minnesota back in 17, and we lived on a golf course with some woods, and we did a haunted hayride up there. And we brought all the kids through all the time, and it was just fun, and we kind of carried on the tradition down here since we've been down here.
Every participant is clear in their efforts, going on to achieve more than just spookifying their houses.
511 Clear Vista Trophy Club. It's on after 6 p.m. It's on remote, so come by between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. and it'll be all lit up. Sometimes the smoke machines will be running as well, so you could get the full effect and sound effects, and there's a donation bin at the front there, and if you could drop something off, it'd be awesome.
Now those are some incredibly well done houses. I sure hope they will be awarded for all of their efforts. The contest is a great way to spend this Halloween. Back to the desk.
Thanks, Lydia. The State Fair came to a close yesterday. Find out how many people visited and what the main attractions were.
Star Trek star Scott Kelly goes to space. More about his flight when we come back.
The State Fair of Texas celebrated its 135th year of annual greatness. This establishment promotes Texan culture through quality entertainment in a family-friendly environment. The State Fair is the longest-running fair in the nation at 24 consecutive days. This unique destination embodies all aspects of Lone Star culture and brings together people from all over. The annual nonprofit organization came to an end yesterday, but is already working toward making the 2022 celebration as memorable as this year, to continue its legacy as a National Historic Landmark. Early voting for the 2021 general election starts today.
UNT Gateway Center will be a polling location. ntTV's Leslie Juarez has the details you need to know to vote early at UNT Gateway. Leslie?
Thank you, Talea. UNT Gateway Center will be having early voting starting today, October 18th through October 29 in room 52. It is important to know that you need to be registered in Denton County in order to vote on campus. If you are not registered in Denton County and cannot attend in-person registration at your hometown, make sure you are registered to vote in Texas and request a mail ballot from your home county election administration by October 28th. Check that your form of identification is current and vote early. You will not be able to vote on campus on election day. For more information about this election cycle, visit the Denton County Elections website and UNT's Division of Student Affairs for more information on times. That's all I have. Back to you at the desk.
Colin Powell, who served as both America's top soldier and diplomat, has died at the age of 84. Powell's family says he died from COVID-19 related complications. Not only was Powell a soldier turned statesman, but he was the first African American and youngest chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Powell later became the first African American Secretary of State. Powell served 2 tours in Vietnam before becoming a general and in 1987 President Reagan's National Security Advisor. CNN's Wolf Blitzer has more.
I will never not be a soldier.
Colin Powell, a soldier turned statesman, made history on many fronts. The first African American and youngest chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and later, the first African American Secretary of State.
So I've always felt strongly that you should try to solve conflicts in this world through negotiations, through diplomacy. Anytime we can solve a problem that way and not use force and satisfy our objectives, let's push for that.
Powell grew up in the Bronx, New York. His parents emigrated from Jamaica. By his own admission, he was not an outstanding student.
It's been amusing over the years to have people come up to me and say, "Well, General Powell, you're chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. When did you graduate from West Point?" Couldn't have gotten in.
He enrolled in the City College of New York. Geology was his major, but the ROTC became his passion. Powell flourished as a cadet and after graduating, excelled as a soldier. He served 2 tours in Vietnam before earning a prestigious fellowship working for the Office of Management and Budget during the Nixon era in 1972. Afterwards, Powell returned to his troops, eventually becoming a general, and went back to the White House in 1987 as President Reagan's National Security Advisor. Then, in 1989, the general became the highest-ranking officer in the U.S. military when President George H.W. Bush named him chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Our strategy to go after this army is very, very simple. First, we're going to cut it off, and then we're going to kill it.
How long have you been here? You been here the whole time?
Powell became a household name during the first Gulf War. His policy of overwhelming force against Iraq became known as the Powell Doctrine.
I express my sincere thanks to each and every one of you for being here to share my final day in uniform.
After a distinguished 35-year career, Powell retired from the Army in 1993. 10 years later, the United States would become involved in another Gulf War, and Powell again played a key role.
My colleagues, every statement I make today is backed up by sources, solid sources. These are not assertions. What we're giving you are facts and conclusions based on solid intelligence.
Then Secretary of State Powell made a case in front of the UN Security Council, arguing that Iraq posed a grave threat to the world because, he said, they had weapons of mass destruction. The following month, the U.S. invasion began. The war lasted more than 8 years. No weapons of mass destruction ever turned up.
I regret it now because the information was wrong.
After 4 years as President George W. Bush's Secretary of State, Powell returned to private life. He spent his civilian years empowering youth through his projects, America's Promise Alliance and the Colin Powell School for Civic and Global Leadership.
We're going to go and educate the kids who are most in need. And when I heard their stories, I said, this is where I belong. I'm home again.
General Colin Powell, a leader and a patriot, who devoted a lifetime to service.
George H.W. Bush named Powell chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1989 when he became the highest-ranking officer in the U.S. military. The Powell Doctrine was initiated with blunt forces against Iraq. General Colin Powell was a leader and a patriot who devoted his lifetime to service.
Veteran U.S. astronaut Scott Kelly has spent nearly 20 years in and out of the International Space Station, his most recent mission lasting a year in space in 2015. CNN's Scott McLean has more on Kelly's thoughts of sending tourists to space.
I just wonder if you think that all of this focus that we have right now in space tourism and commercial flight is sort of detracting from the broader goals that humans have in space.
I know it's cliche, but space is pretty big, and I think there's room for both. I think, governments can do the hard stuff, go back to the moon, go to Mars. Companies like, SpaceX, Blue Origin, maybe others that, are just getting started can, take over access to low Earth orbit and, build a space station. And then that, frees up the resources for the governments to do the harder things.
Should we be sending people to live on other planets?
I would see someday people living on Mars. Now, me personally, having spent nearly a year in a module inside, would not want to spend the rest of my life on Mars, but I would certainly be willing to visit as long as I had a pretty good chance of coming home.
Even if it...
It is safe to say that we are moving toward an era where space travel is becoming more and more normalized. I caught some of the Cowboys game yesterday, but I don't know how it ended. Do you?
No, but I think we have some good news for Cowboys fans. Coming up next is Caleb to give us a scoop.
The Cowboys are winning, but the Mean Green are not. Find out more on sports after this. After an overtime win in New England, the Dallas Cowboys moved to a 5-1 record. That record is tied for second best in the league, only behind the Arizona Cardinals. In the win, Dak Prescott put up 445 passing yards. The interceptions leader, Trayvon Diggs, added yet another interception to his lead. He's up to 7 interceptions on the year, which is four more than anyone else so far. Instead of a close game like Dallas yesterday, UNC had another bad loss. This one comes from a now 4-3 Marshall team. Marshall scored 49 points to UNT's 21. After winning the first game, the Mean Green have now lost 5 straight. It has not been a great season this year. Hopefully UNT can bounce back next week against Liberty. While the season for both the Cowboys and North Texas are already underway, the Mavericks are just getting started. Dallas travels to Atlanta to face the Hawks this Thursday. The game will start at 6:30 p.m. Luka and the Mavs will look to open the season on the win column after winning all of their preseason games this year. Dallas is hopeful to reach the playoffs and much more, so turn on your TV and enjoy the game.
In his time off, this paramedic loves to fish, and he got a huge surprise last week when he reeled in a whopping 13-foot hammerhead shark from North Topsail Beach. This sure was a scary shark tale. I don't think that I would have had quite the same reaction if I had reeled in a shark. Definitely wouldn't have been that calm. Talia, what about you?
No, I can definitely say I would have ran off screaming.
Thanks for watching ntTV News at Noon.
Join us again tomorrow for more coverage from North Texas Television.